here we are. Yeah.
Hi everyone.
Yeah, we are here in the same team, but a bit older
Yep.
today. And so, how many people do we have here?
Yeah, we got 3 and one of them is me, so I'm gonna
Ah.
switch accounts so I could answer in chat.
Please. So, well, I think we can start, and maybe someone will join later. So, I can share my screen. Here we have Taiga UI again, and in Taiga UI we have several add-ons like add-on with charts, commerce, add-on doc for documentation, WYSIWYG editor, mobile add-on, table bars add-on, and today we are gonna add one more add-on that called add-on preview. We will not live code it today because I made this component earlier in the past year, but I think we can take a look at it, maybe to take a look at some interesting approaches that are used, and we can also make some refactors and yeah, just to see how a person can add a new package into Taiga UI. Here I have Taiga UI. I think we can make our editor maybe a bit more cool with night theme. Switch to night theme. Up. Cool. So, and I see some lags, but I hope it's working for you. I'll try to zoom in my editor. So
I think it
I
looks
hope
decent on the stream this time. Last time we
fine.
had a lot of lags.
Yeah, I
looks
see
Smooth enough.
a green square, so I think it works. Well, and here we have folders with add-ons, and I think we're gonna to copy one of these folders, for example add-on table. Let me check that it has secondary entry points. Yes, it has. And we'll make the whole process manually. There is no problems, and we don't add add-ons every day. That's why we have no scripts or no
We actually
schematics.
have a schematic there, but
We
I'm not sure if
don't
it works. Yeah.
Do we have schematic for adding new add-ons?
We had
Yeah,
at some point.
we have it in our Angular open source starter. We can add new libraries there with one command,
Right.
but we don't have it in this particular workspace.
Because we add it like once a year
Yeah.
something. Yeah, don't hesitate to write your questions in chat. I'll be answering them. And,
Oh, happy birthday!
yeah, Steven
thank you.
wishes you
Thank
happy
you
birthday.
one more time.
Yeah, we actually had the little cake already, so there will not be any candle blowing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Preview documents, images. Don't know.
Happy birthday, Roman from Dennis 5.
Thank you. A library to display table data is figure. It's wrong. It's a library to show a model with custom content preview, for example. So I think we don't need these dev dependencies, and as a peer dependencies we actually need Angular 9 or higher. So I'll fix it in other Taiga UI packages soon. Well, and we will need CDK and core packages as peer dependencies, because
Are you going to need a mutation observer maybe instead of
maybe
intersection?
not. Yeah, I will need mutation observer for this for this component.
Right now, Roman is
There's-
sharing the proprietary data on screen. Man, the NDA
Don't
and
look
stuff.
at this.
We
Yeah.
had this package done for our proprietary part of Taiga UI, and there's nothing proprietary about it. It can be used for any documents, any images, or previews, something like that. So we decided to move it to the public part. And right now, Roman is doing exactly that.
Well, and yeah, we need mutation observer, and let's see what's the latest version of mutation observer we have.
You need to check which one comes with the CDK, I think, because we included it.
We can just
Yeah, the
set
ngweb
this.
APIs packages are ours as well. If you haven't heard, we make tiny little libraries that wrap some native APIs to be used comfortably with Angular, like Mutation Observer, Intersection Observer, Web Audio API, Canvas API, things like that. And some of them are included in Taiga, the ones that are needed by Taiga components, like Intersection Observer is needed for lazy loading fallback of images, and we have also a resize observer probably for tabs and for extra tabs to go into drop down with more when they overflow. So some of those packages are included with Taiga, and some you can just find on GitHub. I'll post a link right now. And if you need some native API in your Angular app, you can create issues, ask us if we're interested in adding it, because this is something we do for fun mostly. That's why they are published not by Tinkoff or Taiga UI, but as ngweb APIs, because that's our hobby. So you can check out the landing page for all the APIs we have so far. I posted the link in the chat.
We also have added our new package into global TS config files. So this way we can, for example, develop our packages from source code. So I can change, for example, CDK package and take a look that I fixed some bugs in core package that depends on CDK package, and it's very cool for development experience. And when we build our packages, we build a CDK package first, then we take these bundles from CDK package and build the core package with it, and then we'll build a kit package with core bundles and CDK bundles and so on. So it works faster this case. Okay. So now we have kinda already structure, and we can delete this folders and these lines of code. And first of all, we can also fix readme, not to forget it. It's addon table should be replaced with addon preview. in every case. So, and it's a part of Taiga UI. From the shapeable library, install base packages, then install addon preview.
I think you
Then-
need a kit for it. CDK core and kit and icons
do you
too.
think?
Definitely icons at least. I think we should go over those readmes in packages because table also.
Yeah, we need
need icons.
slider component.
Yeah.
Do we have slider component in Taiga UI? Yeah.
Yes. we
Yeah.
have.
Okay.
It's something we want to refactor.
remove-
Yeah, it's very old. The code there
Okay,
is
then we need
has a lot of
also
imperative stuff.
kit component, and I think
Icons
I
as
need
well
to. Yeah.
because you have buttons
Sure,
with
sure.
pluses and others.
Alright, and I think I should add it into peer dependency section to make it clear. Yeah, kit.
And icons as well.
Yeah, but it's not important. Sure. And Angular CDK, I don't need it, I think. Why do I need it?
Yeah, I needed it in
nothing.
table.
Yeah,
Table package
for-
has
mhm.
reorder with drag and drop from CDK.
Sure. Here we have a license. It works. And now we can take a look at this preview and preview host that are components. Think we can refactor it a bit. So
Do you
let's make a
should you have a components
components folder. In components folder there will be a preview host and preview itself, and preview host includes preview service. We can separate it in services.
You know
yeah,
what I just thought that
I-
maybe we could use a dialog host for it, make it like a custom dialog, because we have a mechanism to make multiple dialog options in the same
Mhm.
app, and this could be a custom dialog, you know. So maybe with the host is not something we will not need.
Maybe.
We can
Maybe.
discuss that in the
Yeah.
pull request. Right now we're just moving the
Yeah.
existing stuff.
So what it's good idea anyway, and then so do you think we can just add it like this preview host without separated services folder?
Let's make it right now as it is, and you can show it how it works and go
Hmm.
over the source code to explain how and why it works.
Well. So, and here we have also a lot of components for preview. I'm thinking about do we need it as separated components here?
No, typically we follow the single component Angular module model.
Approach.
Approach, and in this case those components, they just don't exist outside of
Mhm.
preview in any case.
Yeah, it's interesting
Yeah.
that it's addon preview right now at all. Just this is the whole add-on about preview. That's why I thinking about it. In this structure, there were some proprietary components for our banking stuff, and
I think you should
yeah.
still do it like that, because you might have folders
Mhm.
for enums, for interfaces
yeah,
types.
it's good. So
Yeah, table add-on is also a single module with table in every component and directive inside that module, but there's still some structure similar to other packages we have.
Yeah, alright, and it can be a separated entry point. So we can add it here. It will be Taiga UI addon preview /
Components, as it
Components.
suggests.
and that's all in this case. We can have
Now we need the index TS.
yeah, we need it, and I'll make it this way. Then
Do we
to
need the
remove
mixins?
mixins. So, yeah. Well, let's remove it, and now we can add it as two separated secondary entry points, like preview and preview host. Preview host has its own entry point and preview as well. Good. And yep. So I think the structure is done, and now we can take a look at this component.
Change the path.
Oh yeah. Oh, Taiga UI proprietary banking should be
It's
okay.
just this one.
Then Taiga UI addon preview components preview host. It should work. Yeah, it works. Well, yeah. Now we can take a look at the structure. First of all,
Can you show how it looks like maybe on the proprietary portal for people just to get the taste of it?
yeah, I can, but I think I can commit this, and then I'll just add a new page for this public demo portal, and we can show it and explain its code.
Yeah, Steven is
At the
asking
same
if
time.
there are any plans of using NX.
No,
Do you have any plans of using NX?
I don't have any plans for Taiga UI. I actually I'm working with NX in some other project that I'm working on in the company, and I'm starting to like it. So, but in Taiga UI now I don't see any actual reasons to add NX right now. It works, and for example, NX has just unit tests, and we need Jasmine here because
Karma, yeah.
Karma plus Jasmine. Yeah, because we want to test it our components in actual DOM, real DOM.
Yeah, there are some issues with
Mm.
Jest because it's an imitation, and it's really hard to imitate the actual DOM, how it works. In particular, focus events are very broken in Jest. At least they were when we tried it, and some tests were just failing even though they work. So we switched back to Karma.
What though? Okay.
Forgot your
First of
comments.
all, I need to create new branch. Sorry.
Preview. Oh.
Yeah, and now I need to commit my code with git commit command. So here we have some checks with pre-tier and test lint. We also have TypeScript check that is very important in this case because we just add 46 new files, and maybe there are some issues in paths or maybe incorrect imports, and this command can check it in pre-commit.
Yeah, there's also was a very short check for commit message. We follow conventional commits,
All right.
and if you type something wrong, it would tell you you should format commit message.
Well, yeah, now we can add a new page in our demo. we have such a page with a couple of examples in our proprietary demo portal. So I can just copy it and I'll add it here.
There's a question. Have you plans to migrate to ESLint? We use our corporate rules for linters from Tinkoff/linter package, and I believe once it migrates to ESLint, and we would be able to add it to Taiga, then we'll probably move. But for now, it's not yet finished, and it's done by other people, so we're kind of locked to the current version. So you might imagine that all of our corporate code base should follow the same rules. So we try to use the same linting rules, pre-tier configurations and things like that, so everything looks the same and people can now switch between projects comfortably. So until this is done, we are not looking into ESLint. I think it's an old version of code. You have a constant for modules. It appears to be broken with Ivy, so we had to add a new module, which is to addon doc module.
Yeah, it's addon doc at mod.
It's not a token; it's an actual module.
Yeah,
there it
doc
is.
model.
Instead of that,
Yeah.
we had a array of modules that are typically used in a
As a constant.
demo page. Yeah, it was a constant that you spread, and it stopped working with modern Angular versions.
Well. Yeah, now we have some samples here, and we need to add a new page into our pages. I think maybe there is a sample with kinda generated keywords, so on. Yeah, there is.
Do we have a pattern in public demo portal? I think not.
I think not, but we have components.
Yeah, we should probably move it to components.
So many components, and it's sorted alphabetically. So I think it's a place. Components.
No, it's not. The SVGs.
SVG between SVG and table.
Yeah. The preview.
Okay. P is your.
Yep.
Well, let's do this. Pop up, dialog, viewer, PDF, JPEG, PNG, some words in Russian. Well, it's good keywords, and we also need to add uploads, new components, SVG.
This doesn't matter if it's alphabetical or not here, because it's just routing rules, and we should probably check the sorting in the components list. I see there are some misplaced pages, like money, notification, and then mobile. We could add automatic sorting, but maybe in some cases we don't want that, so it's better to host it manually right now.
So, and I think maybe it can work now, so we can try to
Let's give it a shot.
Start
Yeah.
and see it. Maybe there is some problems. I remember that. No.
Did you
there
add
is-
the host
yeah.
where you're supposed to add it?
Nope. You're right. How can I find it? It's app component or something.
Yeah, it's app component template.
template.
Yep.
Right. Here we have TUI main, and here we need to add
This is a work in progress right now, so if we will use dialogues for this, then we will not be needing another host, and it's probably what we will go with later. But so far we're just moving the code that is already written.
And here we need to add our TUI preview model. To preview host model, yeah.
Don't forget comma.
And here we can see an incorrect path because my IDE works not as good when I'm streaming. It's
Because you're not running the WebStorm imports properly in this case.
But yeah, anyway, it will be fixed later. So what's wrong with the samples?
I think the TypeScript is not yet refreshed the path.
Yeah, we'll wait, and we have no % compiling, unfortunately. Oh, well, it's done.
Do you have any questions in the meantime? Please let us know in chat.
Yeah, there was a good question about ESLint, and yes, it can be. I heard that it can be automatic migrated when people use Unix workspace, and maybe in this case Unix is good because they just have some schematics to migrate this. But yeah, nevertheless we have our linters with some rules that we don't want to lose.
We just surpassed 200 subscribers, so yay!
Yeah,
nice.
That's cool.
And there's a new question: why isn't Angular Universal a default setting? I feel like it should be a must for any website running in production. I think you should be prepared for Angular Universal, but it doesn't have to be the default. We always use abstractions, we don't use global objects, and that's basically what you need if you're working with Universal. Most problems stem from people trying to access like global window, or local storage, navigator, things like that directly, and then when they start Universal, it breaks in the server-side environment. If you properly use abstractions in your code, you should not have any issues with running your app in Universal. Maybe just a few corner cases, but overall, yeah, I think you should code your app as if you were using Angular Universal, but it's not like required. A lot of portals that are behind authorization, like enterprise portals, they don't really need SSR. It would be an additional load on the servers, and you could run into memory issues if you have some unfinished subscriptions in the server side. So this is something I really like. I always go for Universal if I can, but I don't think we should enforce it on people, because Angular already has some steep learning curve for some people, and if we would use Angular as a default, it would scare all the new people coming to the framework. So Roman found some issues in the code.
Some Russian text I found.
Yeah.
And, I'll just wanna translate it because Russian documentation doesn't work. I have to work with it. And we've almost done with our building. It's a bit long, but
Yeah, the demo portal is very huge.
yeah.
If you run it with the production build, it takes ages and eats up all the memory. So it's good to run them on the GitHub Actions instead of our personal computers. Oh, the log service, we removed that.
Yeah,
Right.
classic.
Typo. Another typo. Yeah, I thought you were going to write unavailable.
Loading and unavailable image, for example, and it's set up page.
And let's get rid of that service.
Well, we have here log service.
Also, the encapsulation path is wrong.
Where is it? Yeah, it's demo.
Or is it? How do we do it?
We can just what's going on? I can copy it faster because it's
Yep.
lagging.
Any plans to write a blog post about the testing approach you guys use to cover your code base with tests? For example, the page object API provides a quite convenient way to query the elements in a component. Not sure if we're going to write a blog post on that, because for me testing is actually a boring part, and in our case the screenshot tests are more reliable than unit tests, I think, because there's not much code going on and logic is very modular, so if anything breaks you might not find it if you test just units. And the page object that we have, it's some old concept from back in the day. Probably now you can find more info on tests from using component harnesses, and it's probably something we should add to Taiga UI so that it could be easily tested with end-to-end testing, things like that. It's a concept that was introduced by Angular a couple of versions back. We haven't yet investigated it for Taiga because we are a very small team right now, and we have a lot of stuff in our plate. But if component harnesses become popular among people, then it probably makes sense to add those harnesses to Taiga components so you could test them in your products. Do you know any good articles on testing out of your head?
Yeah, I don't remember any. Maybe about my tools, but it's not modern. Yeah, I had an article about some cool extensions for VS Code, but I wrote it in maybe 2 years ago, and now this extension, some extensions do not work, and some extensions are not so cool as they were. So I don't read articles about testing, I think. Yeah. I need to remove it. So, and maybe it now it can change
Some components
detection
still have it,
strategy. Yeah. Oh, what? Why not? CRC models, components, preview component.
How about data grids, tree list grid? Do you have any plans provide client server side functionality, etc.? We've added table as a separate package, and there's an example on the demo portal which imitates server side sorting. This is what you can use for data grids. It also can be editable with Taiga UI components as cells. There's also an example on that. And for tree view, last live coding session, Roman created a tree view component, which was very basic. And I promised to add some collapse expand functionality there. I've started that, think today or yesterday, but I haven't had any success with, coming up with a clear API on how to programmatically change the levels that are expanded or collapsed so far. So this is something we'll probably add not in the next version of Taiga, but the one after that, the tree view. I mean, and if you have some particular requirements, some examples of components you're missing, you can create an issue or maybe start the discussion if there's no clear view of what is missing, and we can go from there. We are active on GitHub, so feel free to create issues and the discussions there. Broken table.
It's not broken. It can work, but we can't show it in our preview.
I see.
It's some table. Content number 2. I don't know why it's called this way.
It took some time for us to get there. Maybe we should have started with showing how this preview component looks like, because we've been watching the code for a while and you guys don't even know what it looks like in the end. So let's hope it works now.
Alright. Now let's start with preview host, I think. Yeah, or maybe even preview service. It's just a simple service that has one method called open. It takes polymorphous content. I think all of you have already known got some information about polymorphous. Yeah, and it can be just a string, it can be a kind of template or component. So we called it just content, and everything that it has, it's a subject that can be polymorphous component or null. Polymorphous component means that we want to show our preview and with this content, and null means that we don't want to show preview. It's very simple. Yeah, and it returns some observable of never, so it doesn't emit anything, but this observable will complete when we have some new values in preview stream. So that means That means that we want to show some another polymorphous content, or we just wanna uh, remove it and don't show any preview at all. So it has also an assert if there is no observers, and there can be no observers if there is no preview host um, that you provided in your TUI route in your main component, and we can add it there, and if we add it, it can show preview above all other content on the page. So it can add an overlay that you'll see when we'll finish this building. Preview host component is also simple enough, so it injects this service. It can it just takes this preview stream from this service to show it if there is some preview in a GIF. We can show it in a polymorphous outlet. Polymorphous outlet takes content, so this string or template or component or maybe a function, and
there are a few directives here, you see. The focus trap, focus trap is something we use for dialogues as well. It basically creates an area which you cannot leave pressing tab or any other way, and it moves initial focus there once it appears. So it's pretty much what you need for model. And the overscroll is a directive that uses CSS overscroll behavior and augments it a little bit, so that when you scroll on this overlay, the page behind it does not scroll. There's a lot of common hacks on how to stop body scroll when the model window is visible, and most of them suck because they use some hacks that break scroll position or things like that. The proper way is to handle it with overscroll. It's a CSS rule that tells browser what to do when you scroll some container and you got to the end of it and you keep scrolling. So default behavior is the next scrollable parent starts to scroll, and with that CSS rule you can control that the scroll is contained in that area. The only issue is that if there is no scroll at all in this container, then it doesn't do anything, and this is why we have a directive here, not just a CSS rule, because this directive handles the case that I just told about. When there is no scroll in this container, it still keeps the scrolling there. So you cannot use mouse wheel, or you cannot use touch start and touch move on touch devices to scroll anything beyond this container, thanks to that directive.
Well, yay, it's compiled successfully. Now we can take a look at this component. Maybe it doesn't work now, or maybe it works. Why do we recompile it? Well, let's take a look on styles of this preview host. It has position fixed, and yeah, it's we want to locate it in our in user view, just to bottom null and left null with zero height. Yeah, because we don't want user to see it the whole time, but we want to have this element in DOM to show overlay when we need it. We have this background with some
Transparency.
transparent black color.
And you see there's a simple trick here with CSS empty before. If our host is empty, then we just hide the overlay,
Mm-hmm.
and when the preview disappears, the overlay gets fully transparent.
Yeah, it's a cool CSS trick that helps a lot in several situations working with Angular and G content.
Yeah, it's a very helpful
yeah.
because Angular removes white spaces, and you know the empty CSS selector
yeah.
doesn't work if there is a comment tag in there, any white space, and it's great that Angular removes all the white space for us, so we can use this selector.
Yeah, I see some happy birthday by Philippe.
Yep.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see you here. And what about recompiling?
Let's go to the actual preview component.
Yeah, I want to show it in action, but
We're almost there.
yeah. So because it's compiled. Let's see it.
There you go.
You can do this. Compiled successfully.
Yeah, it even has the title now.
Yeah.
Right.
I have browse components, and here we can type preview. Well, we
hopefully
have
it works.
this page.
No, the road is
has-
broken. Check out the
Ah.
dev tools or something.
I can better check our pages and roles. Maybe there is some problems. Component preview. This components preview model.
You
don't
should check the dev tools. I think there's some exception there and it rolls back.
Do you see it? Ah, okay. It's lagging.
Patience.
Yeah. And pages. So I see the problem here. It's our new convention about components roles.
Yeah, and TUI we should remove. We
Alright.
also decided to drop this prefix from the routing.
And what about this page? It's components preview. Alright. Wow.
Another recompile. A
Mhm.
tiny one this time.
I hope. Mm-hmm. And some hashing, and I think we can. Yeah, welcome.
Hold on, I think it just didn't reload yet.
Mhm. Too
Oh,
long.
Yeah, all the power from your MacBook went into the streaming this time, so it doesn't lag, but the browser
so
can't.
you can
handle it.
donate us buying our merch, and maybe I'll buy a new MacBook for me with M1.
Yeah, so never mind the
Core.
Russian letters here.
yes,
I will fix
so-
that.
And
So this is what it looks
yeah,
like.
We have
The glorious.
there are some problems with icons.
Yeah, one icon is
should
missing.
fix it.
Yeah, it's
And,
missing from the
uh,
public API, so we need to add it.
Yeah, here we have a preview component. It's looks like that. Here I am, and here is some information about content that you can use here. This is in Russian, but We'll translate it later for sure. And yeah, you can zoom it, zoom out. You can use this
Slider.
slider. You can drag it, and it has also some restrictions and limitation when you drag. You can't just throw it out of your working zone. So you works with this document, and it has some borders. Well, I can't do this.
Yeah,
Well,
the
and
color doesn't look right here. You know,
yeah,
our proprietary color is bright yellow, so it works
Yeah.
fine. But here we should probably revisit that.
well, yeah, and there are also some features like um, this pagination, kind of pagination with documents. There are also some additional buttons to delete it, to download it, or just closing. There is tab a tag maybe with a name. Well, and there is also a more simple example. And yeah, you.
Yeah, we gotta be DMCA'd for that, man. Turn it off.
Yeah.
Copyright strike coming through.
Yeah, I think there is no aux sound in the stream, so
I hope so.
they just recrolled, and we will get no bans for that.
Dennis is making fun of us because NX cache is built, so it speeds up the reload. Maybe we could try it out.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, there is also unavailable preview. There were an icon for that in our proprietary part, but there is no such an icon here. We'll fix it later. And there is also a case with loading and ng web APIs logo. Take a look how big it is. Wow, cool.
There's a happy birthday Roman from a few guys in chat, and Marco says,
thank you.
You guys are replacing the job of every developer. This library is so rich. Thank you for this. It's really warming to hear such words. Thank you very much. And we really like this library. We've been working on it for a long time, and it's really a joy that we can finally share it with you. It was released just by the very end of last year, so this whole year we're in the excitement for it, for being able to share it finally.
Well, I think now you understand how it looks like, and now we can take a look at some features and approaches in code, how it works. I don't know, maybe it should be better to take a look at the usage first. So here we have an ng template called preview. We'll just use our preview service that we've already seen, and we call open method with this preview.
There's a little trick here to fix types. We use strict types, and we cannot have a property without its value. It's undefined by default, and all the view child and the content child, things like that, they are undefined initially, and they only later queried. So we use the question mark in types, and that's why we had to fall back to the empty string just to trick types.
So, and let's take a look at this preview template. It's actually has a TUI preview component that has one simple boolean input about rotatable option, and it works like a kind of constructor. I don't know, some with that you can build everything you need. Just putting it into ng content of this preview component. So for example, I can provide here two preview title, two preview pagination, and a couple of two preview actions button, and the component to preview component understands that it got this title, pagination, and buttons, and just uses some ng content features to place it in the right order, in the right position at this overlay. So, and now we can take a look at this. First of all, it has a section with content. There is a wrapper with that gets a lot of RxJS streams to transform it, to change its classes, and some magic to catch that it changes. And there is also a section header that let's see it first. Here we have a couple of divs with class title, class actions, and the whole header itself is display flags, just with position absolute, and inside it we can use the following features. So we use ng content feature select, and it allows us to find the particular ng content that we provide with some selector. It can be a class, it can CSS class, it can be just a tag name, and in this case we'll use tag name in all cases. So we see that here we want to place two preview title, and if user of this component provided two preview title, so we made it here, but for example we didn't make it here. So here we have no title, here we have recrawl, and here we have title because there is ng content and we can insert it. The same situation with to preview pagination. If you need some pagination, you can just add it. It's very cool. It's two-way binding to index. If you don't need it, you don't add it. Very simple. So yeah, and it can be also many tool preview actions, everything you need to add. For example, here I want to add download and delete buttons, so I add two buttons, and here we can see them. And there is also the last button that called that's close. We need close in every case to allow user to close this preview mode. And so we have this section just here. It's very simple too. For in this situation we have no interfaces. We don't have any API. We can just provide user some tools, some components that they can use, and they decide to use them or not. They can work with them in this template when they configure it. For example, you can set click listener here, and you'll know when user triggers this delete operation. So we don't need to provide some complex configs with objects and fallback functions, nothing at all. We just provide something that we don't need, and yeah, it works due this because we have here this select feature. And it's also interesting because this selects all stuff with this selector, but everything that we didn't find with the selectors, it can just be placed in this ng content. And for our case, it's our content, it's document itself. So it's very cool, it's very powerful usage of Angular. I like this approach, and I hope I'll write an article about it soon, about this approach and these kind of constructor components.
Yeah, actually, can you change those to header and footer, because it would be semantically better, I think. The tag itself. You can have multiple headers, multiple footers on the page.
That's cool.
Yeah, the footer here as well. Might provide some, some guidance for accessibility tools on where this is on the
Yeah,
page.
that's a good idea. Well, what else do we have here? We also have rotatable input. It's just an input of preview component. You can pass two inputs, zoomable and rotatable options, and for zoomable options we'll add this to preview zoom slider, and for preview action we'll just add this rotatable button with an icon. Do you remember the new version of rotate icon? No?
I can quickly find it.
Yeah, we can fix it to make it a bit cooler to see. So do you have any questions about this usage of ng content in Angular?
Let me see the chat.
Happy birthday to me, thank you very much. It's cool to see so many people who came to say some warm words. It's very cool, thank you.
I think the rotate icon is just not there in the public package. I'll talk to our designer so he could add
Yeah,
it.
we'll fix it later. I think we can also see some this tool preview action or tool preview pagination. There is nothing at all. It's just simple stuff. For example, it's two icon button, just a small button with an icon in center, and it can take input and icon. For example, loading is also a simple loader that rotates.
There was an input called title for button. It's important for accessibility, since it's just an icon button. Then people who use some screen readers will have no idea what this button does, so that's why it's important to provide titles.
Preview pagination is also simple enough.
We need to add the translations here.
Yeah, we'll add it later, and it has two buttons and just a text with information about how many items do we have here, and it works with a couple of inputs and a couple of getters. So we have here last index and the current index, and it also emits changing of current
Also,
index.
check a look this awesome host listener there.
Yeah, there is a cool feature that I wanted to show you. Yeah, it document key downs, but not all key downs of arrow right and arrow left to allow users to change preview with keyboard.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, this is a global event listeners, and you can use document, body, and window there.
Yeah.
There are just three global.
Yeah, and there is also a prevent, cool prevent modifier.
Yeah, this
Do you
modifier
wanna?
comes from the library we developed called ng event plugins. Actually, today we released a new version with a new modifier called self. If you only want to react to the events happening on this particular element, not the ones that bubbled up, and it comes with Taiga, and those event plugins are registered with TUI root module, and basically they allow you to call prevent default declaratively on an event. With the prevent modifier you can stop propagation. You can use capture to listen events in capture phase, something that was not possible in Angular before. And also there's a silent modifier if you don't want to trigger change detection on this event.
Well,
I'll drop a link in the chat, you should check it out.
As a second argument, we can pass a value that we'll get when host listener works and emit something. Well, here we have 1 and -1. It's actually a step that we want to change our number here. So it's a very simple thing. We have here two buttons with this on arrow click -1 and 1, and we have the same situation with host listeners. It's very simple code. We tried not to write hard code in our components, but preview component itself is an exception of this. Well,
Steven asks, what's the difference between window and document? These are pretty different concepts. Generally, a window is the whole window that you use. It's a global object that everything is in. And the document is your HTML document inside it. If you would listen to events on document or window, in this case there's no difference. They both bubble up to both window and document, but there are some differences. For example, the window object triggers focus and blur events when you move out from the tab to another tab, and generally there are some differences in events, and overall they are just two different objects, and sometimes you want to listen to events on window and sometimes on document, mostly due to different events firing on different objects and to bubbling.
Well, here we have some code, some big template. It's a template of this zoom component that has two buttons and a slider between them. It has some calculations and it gets minimal value, minimal zoom value, maximal zoom value, and the current value, and it emits also this value change. It also shows this hint, small hint when we change it to let user see how many percent does it zoomed. Well, and it also have a couple of getters with these calculations about, for example, if our value is maximal, we should disable right button and so on. Well, I think we'll discuss.
We can rewrite this one. Actually, it goes against our code style. If we have a way to early return, we do it. If there are more than one line inside if, so typically we switch the condition to the opposite and move the actual code outside of if with early return. This is the pattern we use.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think there is no interesting code in Zoom, but there are a lot of interesting code in preview component. Let me show you a bit how it works. Moreover, I want to say that there is also an article in my Medium account. I've coded some kind of light version of this preview component for our RxJS challenges that we made with Alex last month. And please share a friend link,
Yep.
of this article into the chat. You can also read about it after the stream. And now I'll show you a bit how it works. It has a lot of things to show because a company is big. It has a lot of RxJS manipulations. First of all, I want to show you that there is 3 subjects. The first one is drag stream, when user drags, zoom stream when user zooms, and rotation stream for rotations. And the second and the third ones have also default value because we want to start with coefficient 1 for zooming and with a 0 degree for rotation. So let me show you how it starts. First of all, there is an interesting view child decorator with content wrapper that waits for this content wrapper to be rendered, and this setter gets native element of this wrapper and merge the following streams. It's a drag and drop from, it's an abstraction that we made in Taiga UI for that combines many mouse and touch events to make it in one stream of entities called drag state that has a stage that is actually start of dragging, continuous of dragging, and end of dragging, and a mouse event that is emitted by this concat RxJS stream. Well, it emits drag and drop, and we also want to listen to touch moves here and to allow users to work with our component with a mobile device. It's pretty interesting. Let me try to do this. No, DevTools don't wanna work. Well. And now we can try it with Pixel. I'll reload the page and so now I can show you that everything that we make here we need only for set it zoomable input to true. So if it can be zoomed, then we'll emit it into drag stream. If it's not zoomable, we don't need to zoom it, so we don't wanna emit it. Why there is nothing? Well, yeah, and it how it starts. So it is also some there is also some refreshes. For example, when we change content of preview, we don't ask users of preview to emit something and to notify us. We can catch it with resize and mutation observers, because if it changes, if it's an kind of another um, entity. For example, it was one photo and it's another photo now. Resize observer will be called because it was resized. But if it's the same, for example, image or the same iframe, and will change source of it, there is no resize at all. But there is a mutation of this DOM element, and we can get this change with mutation observer. After after both situations, we can get this refresh with width and height of our new element. We'll need it later, and we just recalculate all our system, and we set rotation, drag, and zoom to their default values.
There's a question from Steven in chat. Actually, is it Steven or Stefan? I'm not sure. Yeah. So, does it support PDFs? It supports any random content you put there, so you could just use iframe with a PDF, and Google Chrome or any other reasonable browser would show you the PDF preview. But actually, we have a design for a specific PDF viewer service, which would also use iframe, so it would rely on the browser previewing the PDF, not some PDF.js or something like that. And this is what I will be adding soon. Maybe it could be even a live coding session. Actually, it's an interesting idea. Right now we are working on the design and the API, and I think I'll schedule a live coding session to do it.
Yeah, for example, this is a sample of HTML template, because it's not some hard-coded preview window. It's just HTML that I've provided from in the example. I can show you this element in DOM. This is our section, and it has a div with polymorphous content that contains this content with some paragraphs, headings, and so on. So it's just an Angular template, and it's another Angular template with image. By the way, in this case, if we provide just a link to an image, then there is a fallback, I think, and there is.
No, I think it's in a particular example.
Yeah. Okay. Well, nevertheless, it can show any content you want to, and it can be also an iframe with your PDF, with default Chrome PDF viewer, or with iframe with your favorite website, for example, anything you want to. Well, let's discuss some React.js streams. Here we have, what interesting streams do we have? We have transitioned stream, that combines our drag, and yeah, it can help us to detect some cases when we need transition or not. For example, if I zoom it with buttons, I want to have transitions and I want to see it. When I rotate it, I want to see it too. But when I rotated it to 400 degrees and I wanna replace my picture with another one, I wanna don't see it's rolling. I wanna just change this picture. So this is a stream that helps to do this and to add this transitive class with animation transition. So there is also a cursor for different situations. For example, if we have not zoomable mode, we can return default cursor because it's nothing to do with this. But if we have zoomable situation and we drag it after zoom, we want to show grabbing hand, and if we just hover our content, we want to show some zoom in or zoom out, this
Magnifying glass.
magnifying glass.
Yep.
Sure.
That's how it's called.
Well, here we have also a combine latest that helps us to make this wrapper translate stream. It's the most important stream, I think, because it's a hard one. It controls every move of user, and it should be recalculated because content can be as long as this document, and I don't wanna to throw it out after rotating or zooming. It should be recalculated with the whole position should be recalculated after my action. So I replaced combine latest with more actual code, and there is also a to do use name tuples after TS update. So we updated TS, right?
No, we don't have tuples yet.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have Angular
We had
9.
we had to use Angular 9, so all
Mhm.
of our internal projects work with this. We didn't jump to the most modern Angular version, and until we have a good reason to, we will stick with Angular 9.
Well, and here we have some magic. So we have a scan operator, a very big scan operator that looks at some various cases of changes of these three streams. First of all, it can be, for example, some null pairs. That means that there is no change, and it's kind of start, and we need to set it to empty coordinates. It can be a start stage of the current event, then we need to return our coordinates, and there can be also a situation where there is a previous drag event with start stage, and there is a current drag event with end stage. That means that users start dragging and ended it without any moves. So that means click. And after click, we need to recalculate our coordinates, because click means zoom in our case. We can zoom in uh, this part of document under cursor, and we also need to I don't know, to set it in new borders in new working area. So there is it is kind of hack. I can't say that is a side effect because it can be considered as a pure function that just manipulates with these entities inside scan, but nevertheless it's a bit tricky. Uh, yeah, and now after that we just need to calculate some math with offset and move that user made. We need to clamp it to uh, make sure that we are inside these borders, and after that we can just map it to translate section of CSS transform, and we also use this distinct until change RxJS operator function that will filter all the same emits. So this stream will emit after this string will change. Well, and here we also have duplicate combine line test. Let's fix it. Here we also have a sanitizer that we don't need anymore.
No, we still need it in Angular
Wow.
9.
Ah,
Yeah.
sure.
Angular 10 removed
Yeah,
sanitation
Angular 10.
of styles,
I forgot it.
which is probably a good move because there are no real exploits of styles, inline styles. So you don't really need to bypass security and trust styles anymore starting Angular 10.
Mhm.
There's a question in chat by Dennis. He says lots of component libraries have problems like your component when your component initializes, you don't have access to the instance of component from the library. So usually they say to use ng after view init or set timeout. How do we manage that in Taiga? If I understand correctly, you mean when you use view child and try to access instance of some component in your template. And yes, if it's static, if it doesn't have any ng if on it, you can use static true, and then you can query that in ng on init. If it's not static, then you have to use ng after view init. But what we usually do is we use a lot of getters, and if you request a getter, probably somewhere from your template, then by that time the template is already generated, so this instance is there already for you. We of course use type safe declarations. Like I said, we have question marks for types, so we have to check if it's there. But typically if you use it in getters and access it in a template or anything like that, then by that time it's already there. And you also had we also had a pattern that you saw in Roman's code here, where he used the setter on viewchild. You see, this setter is called when the Angular queries the template. So by that time the element is there, and you can use it if you want to kickstart some stream or something like that. Mostly we try to use getters a lot because that frees us from the order of execution. That's exactly the issue you're seeing here. Like in a constructor or in ng on init, these are just particular spaces and places in time, and depending on the order you might have thing there or not have, and you can get into race conditions and things like that. When you use getters, you kind of declare it declaratively, meaning you don't rely on particular order of execution, particular time that you query it. You just query when you need it, and if you're using type safe declarations, then you wouldn't have any problems there.
Well, and here we have wrapper transform stream. So it's the new combine latest, one more. It's very powerful in RxJS factory for this case. So we use this wrapper translate stream and we combine it with zoom stream and rotation stream. So in map we'll get the latest versions of each of them these streams. It's very cool. And it's something that we need here to just to combine them all into one CSS transform property. We just insert it in translate, and now we can set it in style transform of our wrapper. That's actually contains this content, and so it's transform with our content. And that's why we can work with this as we want to. Well, yeah, I think there is no more hacks. I've showed everything. There is also, I remember, for example, will transform, will change transform on wrapper, because here we have a lot of operations. For example, when we mouse move it, we want to make it as smooth as possible, so we can say our Chrome browser or other browsers that we will change these CSS properties, so browser prepares to change it and make some optimizations, small optimization, but it can allow to add a couple of frames per second when we were working with such significant things. With
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
actually got another thing came to my mind for Dennis' question. When we have when we need to access some component, sometimes you don't need to use a view child. You can just use a template reference variable in itself. You know, kind of like a closure inside the template. So, for example, if you want to do some action on a button and you need a component inside that action, you can pass it to the on-click call. So
yeah.
yeah, do you have an example of
I think yes, I should have it.
so instead of adding it to the
Well,
component as a property with view
find
child,
here with
yeah,
button, for example.
you can do it like that.
We have button here.
No, that's a button
no,
for
no,
yeah.
it's not interesting at all. I think we'll have it. Collaborator,
No, it's also like that.
but I'll find it now.
Yeah, this is an example. So you see, we have a template reference variable called element, and we pass this element to the click itself. So we don't we don't store the reference to this element or this component in our component. We only have it in the template, and by the time we click, we already have this, because otherwise we wouldn't have the template ready.
Here we have a good example, because here we have the same situation with reference scroll ref, and we can just pass it in our handler, and if we need this scroll ref only when we handle something, we can use this approach. It's very cool, and it's more it's safer, and we can be sure that there are no problems with an order of rendering of our component.
There's also one cool trick here. You see the scroll ref is element ref. and there's a TUI element directive here.
Mm-hmm.
I know if you use a template reference variable on a DOM element, it gets this element, and if you use it on a component, it gets an instance of component. But what if you want to get the actual tag behind the component? We added a little directive in Taiga UI called TUI element, and it is exported as element ref, and you can use it to query the tag behind component with the template reference variable, like you saw in that code there.
So I created a pull request. You can join us and review this 67 files if you wanna to do this. But anyway, yeah, there are a lot of things to improve before we'll merge it into Taiga UI, because first of all we need to translate the whole documentation. We also need to rethink our approach with maybe these dialogues and with removing host and using our dialogues host, and maybe we'll find more things to do. For example, when I started it, it was just this thing um, to see documents, to work with documents, and we've made here such a cool for document UX with clicks and zooming, but we didn't add here, for example, zooming in and zooming out for typical for photos, when we can zoom it to this way and unzoom the whole to the whole picture and so on. So maybe we need to refactor it also. So
Anyway, I think
yeah.
that's all for this session.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Roman, once again. Thanks for sticking with us for over an hour and a half. You could have watched the movie by now instead of us. So thanks for joining. If you have any more questions, drop them in chat. We'll wait for a minute or so, and you can also reach us on Twitter or in GitHub or any other way you like. So we are easy to find.
Bye bye.
Thanks everybody. Bye.